Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Tonight's Committee of Adjustment hearing is being held by video conference and live streaming video on the town's live stream webpage at oakville.ca. This is a hearing to consider applications for minor variance and consents held under the authority of the Planning Act. Please keep in mind the intent of this process is to review the application that is before the committee, listen to the evidence, and then make a decision. This process is not intended to be used to resolve any concerns or dispute that may exist between the town, individuals, or organizations. If a request for deferral is made and the committee grants such a request, the applicant or authorized agent must contact the Secretary-Treasurer to schedule a new hearing date. In order to conduct an effective and efficient electronic hearing, we have adopted the following process. If you are watching the live stream of this hearing on oakville.ca and you wish to speak to an item on the agenda, you can call 905-815-6095. Again, the number is 905-815-6095. The phone number will also be posted on your screen below the live stream page at oakville.ca. Staff will be standing by to take your call, and when you do call in, staff will ask for your name and item number that you wish to address, and your telephone number. Further instructions will be provided for you to call to join the video conference. When the chair of the committee polls for interested parties, you'll have to press *6 to unmute yourself. The applicant or agent will then be given an opportunity to briefly explain to the committee the basis of the application and answer any questions that may arise. A maximum of 5 minutes will be provided for a presentation. You will need to state your full name and address for the record, and any submissions beyond the 5 minutes will be at the discretion of the committee. All delegations must also state their full name and address for the record. A maximum of 5 minutes will be provided to make your presentation. All remarks and questions are to be directed to the chair. Any submissions beyond the 5 minutes will be at the discretion of the committee. The applicant or agent will also be provided with a further 5 minutes to respond to any comments made by interested parties and answer any questions that may arise from the committee members. If the applicant or agent has any concerns found in staff report, particularly the proposed conditions, this will be the opportunity to advise us. The matter will then be taken into committee for a decision, and this will mark the end of all discussions. Any person desiring a notice for decision for an application must provide a written request, preferably through email, to the Secretary-Treasurer. Written notice of the committee's decision will be mailed no later than 10 days for minor variance and 15 days for consent applications to the agent, any other person who has filed a written request for such notice. The last day of appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal will be noted on the decision. Only the applicant's specified persons or public bodies may appeal the committee's decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal. In November of 2022, Bill 23 legislation, the More Homes Built Faster Act, amended the Planning Act to remove appeal rights from members of the public. If no appeal is received within the prescribed timeframe, the decision of the committee becomes final and binding. The Secretary-Treasurer will then notify the applicant and anyone who received a copy of the decision through written correspondence. People participating in this hearing are to be courteous to and respectful of the members of the committee, town staff, and other people participating in this electronic hearing. Tonight's electronic hearing is being video recorded and available for future viewing at oakville.ca. Thank you. Okay, so the first item we have no regrets this evening, and the first item to discuss is requests for deferral, withdrawal of any application. Madam Secretary-Treasurer, if there's anyone with their hand up or seeking to withdraw or defer an application, please invite them in to speak.
I'm showing 3 hands raised.
Okay, go ahead. I'm here. It's just my camera. Mr. Goral, go ahead.
Good
You're here for
afternoon.
which application?
The first one, 235 Douglas Avenue.
Okay, so that's application 23 of 2025 at 235 Douglas Avenue.
Correct.
Okay. You're seeking a deferral to
Yes.
to confer with staff.
Yes.
Okay, I'll just like to advise you that we have 2 letters of objection from Brian and Liz Kramer and Paul Gregg, and we have a request to attend from both those parties as well. So I urge you to speak to them since you are taking advantage of deferring this application before you come before the committee once again.
Okay.
All right, members, all those in support of a deferral? Okay, the application has been deferred. You'll see the Secretary Treasurer when you are able.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Good evening. Anyone in the audience who was waiting to speak to this application or attend, please note that it has been deferred. You'll have an opportunity to speak at the next time that this application comes before the committee, and you will receive notice accordingly. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Madam Secretary. Who else?
Yes, Mr. Bilal is coming into the meeting.
Okay.
He declined to come into the meeting.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Which application is he here for?
Sorry, he is here now, Mr. Bilal. He is not on my sheet. I don't know.
Okay. Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Bilal Mustafa. I'm presenting my client. I'm the agent. And
For which application?
application, it is 1314 Avon Crescent, Oakville.
Avon Crescent. Okay, that's application 26 of 2025. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Bilal. What would you like to say?
We would like to formally request a deferral of this application, if possible.
Okay, and you will take the time to discuss with staff. Please note that you do have 3 letters of objection from Tina Salder, Reg Sidhu, and Nicole Willett. I urge you to reach out to your neighbors before you come back to present before the committee.
Okay, understood.
Okay. Members, all those in support of a deferral? Okay, the application has been deferred. You'll see the Secretary Treasurer at your earliest convenience.
Okay.
Please note to all the people who have sent letters of objection, if you are here attending this meeting tonight, you will have another chance to speak to this application once it comes before the committee, and you will receive notice accordingly. Have a good night, Mr. Bilal.
Okay, thanks you all.
Who else, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
They've put their hand down. That's all the hands I'm showing for deferrals. You did skip over the procurator interest declaration, Madam Chair, if you wouldn't mind
yes,
going back to it, please.
Sure. Do I have any declarations of pecuniary interests? Okay, I see none. Okay, so those are the only two that are being deferred right now?
That's right.
All right, so we'll take the first matter before the committee this evening, which is a consent application B2601 at 397 Trafalgar Road. I do have a letter of objection from a Peter West and a request to attend from a Peter West as well. Go ahead, Mr. Martino.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, members of the committee. My name is Terry Martino. I'm an architect with Grenwise Design Studio at 341 Kerr Street, and we are the agents for the owners at 397 Trafalgar. If I could actually get slide 2 of my presentation up, if possible, thank you. The application before you tonight is for consent made under Section 53 of the Planning Act to sever the subject property at 397 Trafalgar Road into two properties. This is a severance sketch provided by the surveyor. The severed lot is the north to be severed from the property, and will have an area of 759 meters squared and a frontage along Trafalgar Road of 16.76 meters. The retained parcel, the southern portion of the property, is 794 meters squared in area and has a frontage of 22.1 meters on Trafalgar Road. Both the severed and the retained lots exceed the minimum lot area and frontage requirements under the existing RL4-0 zoning bylaw. If I could go to slide 1, we'll put up the architectural site plan. So in terms of the overall development for the severed lot, which is the north lot, a 2-story brick dwelling is proposed on the severed lot. The proposed dwelling meets the required regulations of the zoning bylaw for setback, coverage, GFA, and height. If I could go to slide 3, please. This is a streetscape drawing along Trafalgar Road. The proposed dwelling on the severed lot is the middle one there, with the house to the north being 407 Trafalgar Road and existing, and the existing lot at 397, the corner of Spruce and Trafalgar to the right side. The proposed dwelling is compatible with the established dwellings adjacent to it, and we believe that it is a harmonious streetscape. A new proposed detached garage. If I could go back to, sorry, slide 1, please. A proposed new detached garage is located in the rear of the lot of the severed and is accessible by a laneway which goes out to Spruce Street, south to Spruce Street. In consultation with Oakville staff, the vehicular access from Spruce Street is desirable and avoids the traffic movements on Trafalgar Road. The severed lot has an associated variance number 1 to deem Trafalgar Road as the frontage for the lot. The retained lot south on the property maintains and restores the heritage dwelling of the existing and enhances the property with the addition of a detached accessory garage, which is just to the east behind the. In consultation with Oakville Heritage staff, the proposed garage replaces the existing coach house on the property, which is to be demolished. The existing coach house on the property has been extremely modified over the years, does not have any heritage significance at this point, and is in disrepair past the point of use. The proposed coach house is the subject of new one is the subject of variance number 2 for the accessory building height. The height to the peak is 5.96 meters, whereas 4 meters is permitted. Again, in consultation with Heritage staff, if I could get slide 16, please. This is the proposed coach house on the retained lot. And again, in consultation with Heritage staff, the proposed structure is thought to enhance the architecture of the dwelling and is referential to the existing coach house on the property. You can see this by, if I could have slide 4, please. So you can see the existing heritage structure at the corner of Spruce Street and Trafalgar, and then the proposed garage, coach house beside it. As part of the application, a heritage impact assessment was prepared by Hobson Built Heritage, which I believe the committee will have in their package. Summary from that report is that the new dwelling proposed on the severed portion is complementary to the adjacent heritage buildings and fits into the area. Perhaps we could go back to slide number 1, please. Thank you. The proposed severance in the new construction, again from the report, will have no negative impacts, will maintain the character of the heritage district, and the proposed new construction are modestly scaled, and the scale and the massing and orientation and setbacks are consistent with the area. Further, as part of our application, a planning justification report was prepared by Paul Demchak of Battery Planning and Management. His report analyzed the consent proposal with respect to the applicable provincial policies, Oakville's official plan policies, and the zoning bylaw. Concludes that the proposed severance meets the provincial policy plans. It meets the intent of the official plan policies for creation of new lots in established residential communities, and meets the generally the regulations of the zoning bylaw. It further concludes that the proposal will enhance and contribute to the heritage district. I've read planning staff's comments, and in consultation with them, I believe that their report to you tonight recommends the approval of our application, and that it meets the official plan, the provincial and zoning bylaws as proposed. Further, my clients have canvassed extensively their neighbors and have received verbal support from 5 residents at 408, 394, 388, and 382 Trafalgar Road, along with 278 Spruce Street. I am aware that the neighbor to the north, 407, who did receive a package of the proposal from my clients, I believe is here to speak tonight. I would suggest to you that the proposal meets all of the applicable guidelines and policies, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Martino. Are there any questions of Mr. Martino at this time from the committee members? Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The owner to the north is concerned about the side yard setback on that side. I see that your side yard setback, it seems on the south side is 2.4 meters, and on the north side is either 1.2 meters or 2 meters. Is there any possibility that I'm talking about the severed lot, and I'm not quite sure if the house we're talking about is a house that's absolutely going to be built or just an idea, how a conceptual thing. So maybe we should clear that up. But if it is the house that is to be built, I'm wondering if it can be shifted to the south to allow a bit more room as a side yard setback there, please.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, if I could get the streetscape slide. That's number 3. And thank you for your question. The idea, first of all, the house, as part of the full application and consultation with heritage staff, the house was designed and is intended to be built on the property. The setback to the north, to the neighbor on the left side of that drawing, meets the zoning bylaw in that it's permitted to have a 1.2 meter setback, and that occurs just in the center section of that elevation. The zoning bylaw requires, without an attached garage, a setback of 1.2 on one side and 2.4 meters on the other side. The idea and the intent of designing the house was to put the entrance into the proposed house on the south side, in other words, as far away as possible from the neighbor to the north, to protect privacy. So anybody visiting the house from the street, any deliveries, et cetera, would come through the south side of the house and that entrance. Further, it was designed that there was the coach house in the rear and accessed off of Spruce Street, so as not to have a driveway off of Trafalgar Road. And I would suggest that that further increases the privacy for the neighbor on the north. Because undoubtedly there would be a driveway down that side on the north side. House would have to shift further south, and that there would be an increased just movements, lights, cars in a driveway accessing the property from Trafalgar. So we've tried to, and we thought a lot about the design of the house to ensure the privacy. The elevation only has a modest number of openings on the north side of the proposed dwelling. And again, there's significant landscaping and there will be a board fence constructed. I hope that answers your question, but that was the sort of design philosophy behind what we were trying to do.
Could you bring up the sketch that's green in color and shows the proposed house? It might be just to the above the
Slide
one you
1.
have with. But I'm just proposed the footprint of the house, not the elevation of the house.
Yeah, slide 1.
And can you blow that up a bit, particularly for the north part? It just, I don't know if it's me, but if on the north side, you have a setback of 1.2, and on the south side, you have a setback of 2.4, is it me, or the south side looks much, like 3 times greater than the setback on the north side? Is it? Oh, I'm sorry. It's because of the porch, is it? We're going.
Through you, Madam Chair, that is correct. It's because of the porch, which in the drawing is a lighter hatch, but it is to
Okay,
the
okay, I see
edge of
why
the-
I've got mixed up there. Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry, I was muted. Madam Secretary Treasurer, any other questions of Mr. Martino at this time? Mr. Terlowski, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Martino, the neighbor to the north has raised the issue of the historic separation of distance between buildings as a concern. from a heritage aspect. In your discussions with the Heritage Committee, was that ever raised as an issue of concern?
Thank you. And through you, Madam Chair, in discussions, and we met with Heritage staff on the property as well as the Heritage Committee members, it was not brought up. A careful review of the Oakville Third Heritage Conservation District, the Trafalgar District, there is absolutely no mention of a landscape space. The house at 397 Trafalgar Road is listed in the Oakville Heritage building inventory, and it simply states that it's a Queen Anne brick, well preserved. These are not Part 4 dwellings, neither 407, the neighbor to the north, or 397. These are just contributing houses in the Heritage District. So the description of them has to do mostly with the house as opposed to any of the landscape. But we have been through, the Heritage consultant, Megan Hobson, has been through it, and there's absolutely no mention of any heritage landscape or the property with respect. So it's not a contributing factor. That was much discussion, but no, it was never deemed. It's just the houses themselves contribute.
Thank you.
Ms. Price, you also had your hand up. You're muted.
I was just wondering if the neighbor at 261 Bruce Street, if there was any contact with that person or the people living in that, because it seems like their house is one of them will be affected the most by this, having this huge driveway that goes the extent of their property. And I'm just wondering if they had any opinions or you just weren't able to contact them.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Chair, my clients did on numerous occasions attempt to contact that neighbor to the east. And my understanding is they're unable to make contact at this point.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Madam Secretary Treasurer, has anyone called with interest for this application or raised their hand to speak to the committee?
Yes, we're showing one hand up, and Mr. Peter West.
Okay, go ahead and invite Mr. Peter West. Mr. West, go ahead.
Good evening, members of the committee, and thanks for having me this evening. I'm not a professional at this. I'm just a resident. My name is Pete West. I originally moved to Oakville in 1984, and yes, we're the owners of 407 Trafalgar Road, historically known as the John Alexander Chisholm House. John was the first son of Colonel William Chisholm, who founded Oakville in 1827. This is actually our second heritage home in Oakville, and we do not consider ourselves to be owners of the Chisholm House. We're custodians. It's not infrequent we see visitors in front of the house taking pictures and walking by to look at it. And it is, of course, as mentioned, adjacent to the proposed severed lot. And I'm here to propose the consent application severance and the associated minor variances proposed for the adjacent property at 397 Trafalgar Road. The opposition is based on the fact that this proposal fails the 4 tests under the Planning Act, specifically regarding whether the development is minor in nature and whether it maintains the intent of the official plan regarding heritage conservation. Of course, no one from the Heritage Committee is here today to testify to that. We've heard some hearsay, but let's put that aside. There are kind of 3 main points I wanted to make. The first is with regard to the irreversible impact on the heritage setting and the rhythm in the neighborhood. the heritage character of Trafalgar Road, it's not just defined by the historic structures themselves, but by the spatial rhythm and established separation between these estate homes. The proposed severance seeks to insert a new infill dwelling into the historic breathing room between the 1925 house at 397 Trafalgar and our circa 1850 home at 407 Trafalgar. Approving this severance would permanently alter the streetscape, transforming the established historical spacing into, and think about this, at 1.2 meters, a little bit on the other side, it kind of starts to feel like a subdivision style, right? That is not consistent with the character of this neighborhood. The gap between our homes is a heritage attribute, and this must be preserved to maintain the prominence of the Chisholm House. And I would like to, maybe we have to bring members of the heritage community into this hearing at some later date to talk to this directly. But my understanding is squarely that the spaces between the homes are very much part of what is protected under the heritage laws within Oakville. The second point is that this really is an overdevelopment and a force fit. The associated variance request reveals that this new lot, it's not a natural fit for this site. The request to orient the house to Trafalgar Road while maintaining a driveway on Spruce Street demonstrates the lot cannot function according to standard zoning bylaws. If the frontage remains on Spruce Street with the driveway on Spruce Street, legally, the rear yard setback of 7.5 meters is from the northernmost lot line bordering our property. If a variance is granted, this setback is now 1.2 or 2.4 meters. Of course, the developer applicant, right, and it is a developer, has requested the absolute minimum on that side to maximize space on the other sides, because that's the best thing for a developer to do in their own interest of profitability. A change from 7.5 to 1.2 meters is in no way minor in nature whatsoever. It is substantial. These are not minor technical adjustments. They're indicators that the proposed lot is insufficient to support the new dwelling without compromising the zoning standards designed to protect the neighbors. The third point is that this really does have it would have a negative impact on the heritage landscape. The introduction of a new structure in this location will crowd the John Alexander Chisholm House, diminishing its stature and its historical context. Rather than the existing mature trees, some of which would be destroyed, the proposed flat side of this two-story massing pressed up against what the minimum amount, if this variance is granted, would loom over our property line, creating shadowing and a visual intrusion that harms the integrity of the designated heritage site. Look, in conclusion, I am not opposed to respectful renovation at all, but I strongly object to the creation of a new building lot that clearly would negatively impact the historical fabric of Trafalgar Road. This proposal prioritizes intensification for profit by a developer over heritage conservation and neighborhood character. So I respectfully request that the committee refuse both the consent application and the minor variances. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. West. Any questions of Mr. West? Okay, I see none. Mr. Martino, I'll give you your time to respond to all these concerns.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am sympathetic, I would just like to say, to change can be unsettling in established neighborhoods, and I do appreciate that. As I had previously mentioned, great care was taken in terms of trying to design a home that would fit in there, as well as protect the privacy to the property to the north. I guess first I'd like to say is that The property to the north of 47 Trafalgar is also listed in the building inventory of the Third Heritage Conservation District study. It is rated as 1860 vernacular frame stucco. It notes that it was previously a farmhouse that was moved closer to Trafalgar Road at some point in time. And it is categorized as integrity compromised. Integrity compromised in the definition of the heritage assessment from the Third District Conservation District Study says integrity compromised is defined as a building which retains little of its exterior integrity and form, original or early materials or architectural detailing. The exterior has generally been compromised by non-reversible alterations, unsympathetic contemporary additions, etc. The point that I'm trying to make is that it is a contributing house to the neighborhood, as is the owners of the property at 397. So that's the sort of idea of prominence of these two houses within the area. With respect to the lot size being insufficient, the lot size is greater than what the minimum lot size is required by the zoning bylaw. It's larger in area, it has a larger frontage. The idea of the access from Spruce Street comes from consultation with staff. It's not desirable. There's all kinds of issues with backing out traffic movements on Trafalgar on the existing houses, particularly up high on Trafalgar Road from Spruce Street north to Englehart and up to Cornwall. And so in consultation, it was considered that this is actually a better design and improvement for access to the rear of the property of the new severed lot. But if you accept the idea that the lot could be severed because it meets the area and frontage requirements on Trafalgar, and it wasn't desirable to reduce the traffic or movements on Trafalgar, you know, a driveway could be put in from Trafalgar and you could access the property that way. The house would still be located where it's located at the 1.2 and 2.4 meter setbacks. It could even actually be reduced to 1.2 under the zoning bylaws setback on either side if it had an attached garage. So the idea that the lot is undersized it's not exactly correct. It's actually larger than the required under the zoning bylaw. With respect to hearsay, I'm just going to read. As part of our application, there was the heritage impact assessment, and this is by a qualified, certified heritage professional, Megan Hobson, who's done plenty of work in Oakville. And her actual conclusion is that the proposed lot severance and new construction will have no negative impacts on the cultural heritage value of the Doughty House, which is the house called on 397, and will maintain the character of the heritage district. So I would submit that it's not actually hearsay, but it's actually the words of a certified heritage professional. And I believe that town staff have come to the same conclusion in heritage staff, which is listed in your report. With respect to, I'm just trying to go through the number of issues and concerns that the resident raised. My client actually lives with their family at 397. Yes, he is a contractor, but they actually do live in the house at 397. They're not developers. And again, I'd just like to reiterate some of my previous comments is that we've combed through the Heritage District study and guidelines, and also Heritage staff have concluded that there's no mention about these open spaces on these estate lots. If there was, let's say, the estate lot would belong to 397, and then I would go back to the conclusions of the heritage consultant who said that it would have no impact on the 397 and there's sufficient space around the heritage home. I think I've covered everything, I hope. I'd be happy to answer any further questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Martino. Any questions from from committee members to Mr. Martino? I see none. Mr. West, I see your hand up, but I've given you your time in full and even more. It's now the matter for us to have a discussion for committee members to make their decision.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, committee.
Thank you. If there are no questions and no one else that is interested to speak to the committee members, we'll take the matter into committee. And perhaps someone can start the discussion who would like to move a motion. Go ahead, Mr. Talowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I'll give you 3 motions in total.
Okay. Yes, if you are going to move the motions for the variances along with the consent, thank you.
But depending on the outcome of the consent.
Yes.
Madam Chair, for the consent application B2601, Madam Chair, I'm going to move that this application be approved as applied for. We have a complying lot that's being proposed here. It meets the policies of both the province of Ontario and the town of Oakville's official plan. The subsequent variances are really technical in matter, in that, as Mr. Martino said, if they did not put the access onto Spruce, the frontage would be Trafalgar. The variance to have Trafalgar deemed a front yard would not be required, but we'd have in my mind, a worse situation with another driveway on Trafalgar Road. The variance for the coach house is again really allowing it to be architecturally accurate with the time. I've heard the concerns of the neighbor, but we have support from town heritage staff, and there was no opposition from the town's heritage committee, which, as we know, when they are not happy with an application, are not shy about showing up in front of the committee and voicing their concerns. So again, with that rationale, Madam Chair, I'm going to move the consent be approved, subject to the conditions contained in Appendix A.
Very well. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to point out that I'm going to vote in favor of the severance. I do acknowledge, as I said, and the neighbor said, I would certainly like that house to be moved further south, but the house for the severed lot complies. There's not a variance being asked for with regard to that house. It's only for the actual severance of the property, and I do think that I agree with Mr. Tulesky that is the going off Spruce Street is the correct to access off Spruce Street is the most reasonable way to get access to this property. So as I said, I will be supporting that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Did I see another hand up? Okay, very well. So the motion is to approve application B2601 4397 Trafalgar Road, and that's the consent application. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved, none opposed. Okay, Mr. Tarowski, care to move the next 2 associated variances?
Madam Chair, I move approval of application A008-2026, finding that the variance is minor in nature, meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act, and I would make that approval subject to the proposed garage being constructed in general accordance with the final approved heritage permit to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning and Development. And I would again note there was opposition that I think I addressed in my previous discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Tulowski. All those in support of application 008 of 2026? attached to 397 Trafalgar Road. Okay. The application has been approved, none opposed.
Madam Chair, I'll also move approval of application A009-2026, finding that the minor variance being requested meets the test of the Planning Act. Again, would note there was one opposition from a neighbor, and that would make that approval subject to that the owner applicant receive approval of consent application B2601.
Very well. All those in support? Okay. The application has been approved, none opposed. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, member of the committee. Have a great night.
Okay. Now we move on to application 019 of 2026 at 1455 Albion Avenue. Again, that's application 19 of 2026 at 1455 Albion Avenue. I have Miss Amelia Villa as the agent listed here. If you're interested in speaking to one of the applications before us tonight, you can call 905-815-6095 and staff will be standing by to take your call. Is Ms. Villa here, or do we have a different agent that's representing this property? Oh, go ahead, Mr. Wilmot. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry for the switch again. We did this to you last week as well. I'm here. This is the first of two of our applications, so I'll be representing our clients in both. Again, it's John Wilmot from Wilmot and Strickland, Inc. I am the agent and architect for our clients, Ms. Carol Aiken and Mr. Dave Bird. This is a relatively straightforward application, I think. It's a request for a reduction in the side yard setback to 2.6 meters, whereas 4.2 meters is required to accommodate a new three-season, one-story sunroom. The setback is measured actually to the proposed fireplace, which is shown in pink on the diagram, on the site plan. The main easterly wall of the porch is actually set back by 3.14 meters. And also note the existing garage is even closer at 2.38 meters. Staff have supported the variances in their report. Our clients have been out to speak with some neighbors, and I believe there should be 2 letters of support in the package received. If you'd like to see sort of an image of what we're proposing, that's on slide 2. The constraints of this addition include the pool and making it one of the only areas we could create an addition. So that's a sketch of what we're proposing, fairly modest, and I think I don't need to explain any further. I'd be happy to answer your questions if you had them.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Omar. Any questions or items of clarification? Mr. Dickey?
Thank you, Madam
Yeah.
Chair. Well, you know, I'm a fussy person about setbacks, so
Yeah,
tell
I
me
saw
why
your
you
hand
can't-
twitching.
what's that?
I saw your hand twitching.
Just tell me why you can't have that porch or sunroom further away from the side property line?
Sure, through Madam Chair, if you could bring up the site plan again, please. So if you can see where the pool is located, there is about an 8-foot setback to the main screen porch area, and so we can't push it any further to the well, I guess it's the south. I think of it as west, but it's the south. And so we've wrapped it around to maximize the size of the porch without interfering with the pool. And we believe that there still is significant setback there, well fenced and treed on the side, and is still within the sort of the line where the garage exists, so the existing setback. So we feel it was a reasonable approach to be able to accommodate the size of porch that our client was looking for, and still maintain a reasonable setback.
Thank you, Mr. Omar.
Just one, I'm sorry, one more question, or at
Go
least
ahead.
one more.
I was out of the pan, so I couldn't see. Go ahead.
There's a 3-car garage there.
Yeah.
The houses seem to have been built, I think I saw for some reason it's built in the 70s, but anyhow, yeah. Does it, from just your experience, that wasn't a 2-car garage that was added onto? And the question would be, just, are we to assume that it's legal non-conforming? The fact of that sidewalk, that side yard, and so you're so tight with that 3-car garage? Or do you have any information on that?
I believe the 3-car garage was built in the 70s as part of the existing fabric. That is a typology on that street and in that neighborhood. One of the few neighborhoods in Southeast Oakville that had 3-car garages. A lot of them stuck out front like this one. So I do believe that it's part of a legal non-conforming situation.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I see none. Madam Secretary Treasurer, has anyone called with interest for this application?
We've had no calls and no hands showing.
Very well, we'll take the matter into committee then. I do note that we do have 2 letters of support. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Ms. Price.
Taking into consideration my site visit, the various reports from the agent, the staff, and the 2 letters of support, I believe the variances to be minor in nature and are in keeping with the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and is desirable for the appropriate development of the land. I agree with the agent and staff that the application meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act. Proposed development meets and protects the character of the existing neighborhood and does not present any acceptable adverse impacts. In conclusion, I recommend the application be approved subject to the following conditions. The rear 1-story addition be constructed in general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawings dated December 16th, 2025. And that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction.
Very well, is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved, none opposed. Okay, application 020 of 2026, 273 Elton Park Road. I believe Mr. Lamont's with us again for this one.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Once again, for the record, I guess, it's John Wilmot, Wilmot and Strickland, agent for Mr. Chan and Ms. Hu, who have resided in the house for some time. This is a photograph of the existing bungalow. This project began with our clients contemplating adding a 2nd floor to the current bungalow. And if the members have visited the site, they can see that the orientation and address of the house is off Elton Park and maintains comfortable setbacks. After considering what the restrictions are with the design of an addition and some of the existing quality of construction, it was decided to pivot to construct a new house. And if you could maybe move to slide 2, please. The design, albeit modern, generally maintains the existing orientation and location of the existing bungalow. Our office engaged in a pre-consultation meeting with the town planning staff who made suggestions regarding the variances, and we worked along with them to arrive at the variance requests before you today. In their report, staff have recommended approval of the variances and have done a good job in their analysis to support the position. So I have little to add to the actual analysis. I do want to add that our clients canvassed the neighbors to explain the proposed development and variance requests. They obtained a couple letters of support, and we're not aware of any objections. I think because the report by staff was very thorough, I would be happy to answer questions the staff, or sorry, the committee might have. With that, I sort of think that they're fairly straightforward, but if you'd like me to explain further, I'd be happy to.
Thank you, Mr. Wilmot. Any questions or items of clarification of Mr. Wilmot at this time? Mr. Dickey, go ahead.
Thanks. Sorry to be a pain. It's like to be consistent. Okay, I'm concerned obviously with, oh no, I shouldn't say obviously. I'm concerned with the rear yard again, setbacks again are my thing. The setback 6.9, does that, it seems to have, there seems to be quite a large overhang at the eaves troughs. So does the 6.9, is it measured from the wall of the house, or does that large deep eaves trough, is that where the measurement's from?
Sure. Perhaps we could bring up slide number 3. It's the site plan. I'm happy to explain that. And if you could zoom in just a little tiny bit, I'd appreciate that, please. Perfect. And if we can just see the top of the rear yard setback, that would be terrific. Okay, thank you. So to you, Madam Chair, the setback, we have a wider overhang that's approximately 0.9 meters. After discussions with zoning, it was determined that the actual setback line would be taken the line of the house would be taken 0.6 meters off of that overhang. The line of the house, and you can see if it's small, but there's a dimension that says 0.3 meters off of the actual line of the wall of the house. So the setback line is taken to that 0.3 offset, if that makes sense to you. So it's not to the overhang of the house, but it's 2 feet in from that. The existing house, because of the orientation, because this is a corner lot, it's sort of an odd situation. It's got a curve at the front. There's lots of trees on the Pinewood Avenue side. There's an existing pool that we'd like to maintain, and the existing side yard setback to the south is essentially the same. The design warranted approaching it with a little less setback at the so-called rear. So it's a unique lot, a unique situation, and we believe that most of that is a covered patio and ground floor. There's only a very small portion on the second floor that's a bedroom, and with all the privacy that's afforded with the trees, that there would be no negative impact by granting an increase in, I guess, a decrease in the setback.
Okay, I have very large windows at the back. I'm looking at privacy, obviously, setback. At the back, you have a large window. It goes right around the corner on the second story. Is that still going to protect the privacy of the neighbors to the south and to the rear? You're saying the vegetation, there's vegetation back there that will prevent someone overlooking into the rear of the houses that front onto the next street?
Yes, there is, the area is well treed. It's, that is just a bedroom. It's the primary bedroom. It's not a high traffic space, but we believe that the overlook will be minimal, and given the trees and the foliage, the fence, there will be little impact. Our clients have been out to see the neighbors. We have 2 letters of support, and they are from 268 and 272. We're not aware of any concerns that any of those are on Elton Park. I don't believe that any of the neighbors adjacent had any issue with what they were seeing. So,
Thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Mr. Tofsky.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to join Mr. Dickey in questioning on the rear yard setback variance. Maybe if we can get the site plan back up. Mr. Wilmot, it appears the existing house has an area jutting out into the backyard similar to what the proposed one is. Can you explain to me the relationship to, I can't really see it on the plan, of where the existing house is compared to where the proposed house is in terms of that backyard addition?
of course, thank you. There's a dotted line above where it says rear yard setback in purple, and that is the setback of the existing 1-story. It was an addition after the existing house was built. So that setback is at sorry, that is at 9.2. So there is the same kind of relationship that's going on between this house and the existing house, where it does jut forward. When we spoke to staff about this, one of the reasons we were requesting that the front yard be considered off of Elton Park, is it's the natural front yard and address to the street. But because this existing house was sort of forced into the back corner, if we had maintained the front yard on Pinewood as per zoning, which is traditionally the shortest street frontage, is usually the front, then the rear yard would be only 4.2 meters, which would match the existing configuration of the house. So what we're really trying to do is match pretty close to the footprint. Our clients did desire a slightly larger house than what they have as a current footprint, and we couldn't really go forward with it because of the existing driveway, the parking spaces, the existing large tree at the front. So it seemed like a reasonable way of accommodating a little more space, where the condition of what we are now calling a rear yard setback is not going to make a big impact. So staff was, we worked with staff to try and accommodate less variances and trying to, meet the suitability of the development. And as per their report, they found it very suitable. So anyway, I hope that answered the question long-windedly about the rear yard setback and where the existing is.
Okay, so in other words, if I subtract the existing situation where the existing house is, and I subtract the overhang, the variance from what's there today of the physical building is only going to be about 60% of what you're asking for. That makes sense? Sounds like you're asking for a large variance, but you've got an existing situation that doesn't comply, if that's the rear yard, and then a portion of what you're asking for is an overhang, not the actual structure.
That sounds exactly right.
Thank you. And if I could, Madam Chair, ask Mr. O'Hare a question.
Yes, if staff can just pan out so I can see everyone. Thanks. Go ahead, Mr. Talas.
Mr. O'Hare and Mr. Wilmot made reference to staff and this rear yard issue. When I read the staff report, unless I missed it, the analysis really did not make any reference to this rear yard setback variance. So can I hear from you specifically your views on the rear yard setback?
Yeah, of course. Through you, Madam Chair, to Member Talowski's question. The gist of the report really did focus on the built form of the dwelling, its impact along the streetscape, its massing and scale mitigation efforts. When staff met with Mr. Wilmot to discuss the application, the Pinewood Avenue frontage was deemed to be the front lot line due to the way the lot's configured. The historical home has always been situated so that its front yard is in the technical flankage yard. With that kind of existing character for the last number of decades, there have been quite a few mature trees that have been planted and grown over the number of years along the Pinewood Avenue frontage. And so staff were supportive of keeping the house in a similar orientation in order to preserve those trees. As such, with the way that the existing dwelling is located on that lot, there is already that reduced setback to the rear yard. The rear yard is technically the dwelling to the south, based on current zoning definitions, which is 4.5 meters, which is, again, would be deficient in this regard, even as a corner lot due to the flankage setback. So keeping that at 4.5, which is the existing home as well, and then noting that the existing interior side yard setback to the dwelling to the east, which is now the rear yard, based on the variances that are being applied for, is appropriate in staff's opinion. Again, due to the screening in the rear yard, due to the setback to the one-story portion, so there were no concerns about overlook or privacy due to the built form in the rear yard and the developer and the homeowner being sympathetic to neighbors with those one-story transition elements in the house. So having the reduced rear setback in this case did not bring any sort of overall detriment to the proposal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Right. Has anyone called with interest for this application on Secretary Treasurer or raised their hand?
We've had no calls and there are no hands up.
Okay. All right, we'll take the matter into committee. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was kind of questionable about this, but I I'm going to make a motion to approve. I'm looking at the fact that there's lots of trees in the backyard, and the alternative, if the front yard was the pine land, that would, or what would now be a rear yard, what is a rear yard would have been a side yard, and a side yard probably only needs certainly 4.5 meters or less, and you're within that. The aspect of the overhang adds a little bit of a matter of having to be interpreted to say that yes, the house is actually further back. And then again, I've learned that the existing house had a setback of that didn't adhere to the bylaw anyhow, so we're following up that. Plus the house, the lot is irregular shape. So those are my reasons for having changed my mind from the original. So based upon my review of the owner's application, the site plans, and the presentation by the owner's consultants together with the planning staff's report, I am satisfied that the variances are minor in nature and conforms to the 4 tests under the Planning Act. And I put forth a motion that the application as applied for be approved, subject to the conditions that the dwelling be constructed in general accordance with the site plan and elevations drawings dated December 18th, 2025, and that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction.
Okay, thank you. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved, none opposed. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
On to application 21 of 2026 at 258 Caroline Drive. Again, that's 021 of 2026 at 258 Caroline Drive. And that's Mr. Hicks again.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thank you. I'm in an area with weak internet. I'll try and keep the video on as long as I can, but if it starts to falter, I might have to turn it off. But if we can go to page 2, this application is for a small addition to an existing house of approximately 250 square feet, 25 square meters. It's a 1-story addition, which is, if you can blow up that site plan on that drawing so that I can show the addition. I don't think you can see my cursor on the thing, but blow it up a little bit further. So the existing house is shown in the gray hatching, and then immediately behind that, there's a red outline of a 1-story addition, approximately 14 feet in height, that's being added on as a solarium to the back of an existing house. This is a corner house, and as the house was built in the last few years, it's found in an area of transition. There's a number of new houses that are under construction or have been constructed, and a number of houses in the Queen Anne area that are have had substantial renovations done to them. So the variances we are seeking tonight are one for total gross floor area ratio to lot, which allows 42%, which is essentially what the existing house is. And we are asking for 46.4%, which reflects the 25 square meter addition. And we're also asking for a variance for a rear yard setback. And I will explain later in here, but there are 2 potential rear yard setbacks because this is the corner lot and it's not an R01 zoning. If it's cited as it is right now with a side yard setback to call it the south side adjacent to the neighbor's house, it needs to be a 7.5 meter rear yard. If in fact that side yard was increased to 3 meters, then you're allowed to have a 3.5 meter setback, and I'll explain that in an envelope. So as of right, one of my positions would be that the zoning bylaw permits actually to have a 3.5 meter rear yard on that site, on a corner lot like that. Within that zoning, it is a special condition within the zoning. We have canvassed the neighbors on this. We've spoken to all the adjacent neighbors. 2 of them have submitted letters of approval. The others were did not have any concern. Now, planning has surprisingly to me not supported, although they did say that they weren't going to support, but I felt I was going to want to present my situation to the committee. Because after doing this for 40 years, I disagree with their interpretation of why they do not think this complies with the 4 tests. So as of right, if we can go to 2 more drawings down, the third, actually number 3. So yes. So as of right, one is allowed to build a 4-meter high accessory building within 0.6 meters of the rear yard setback. That's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to build essentially that same block attached to the house. My interpretation would be that as of right, that addition of an accessory building in the back of the house would be have much more impact on the streetscape and more impact on the house that's immediately to the west of this property, which is probably a house that's due for removal at some point in time. So the with our addition, you're also allowed to have 35% coverage plus 5% coverage for an accessory structure. What's shown on there is actually committed under the bylaw. It's not as if we're going over coverage. In fact, if you take the 35% and the 5%, which allows 40% total coverage on the site, we are still only at 35% with the addition that's proposed. So again, in blue underneath there, you can see that that's actually as of right what you're permitted to do. So if I can go to the next drawing, just to explain this, on the right side, if we can blow up where it says part 1, this was related to the original subdivision of this lot. There was an envelope that shows the standard setback of 7.5 meters on the front and the flanking side yard setback of 3.5 and 1.2 on the west side or north or south side. And this alternate shows an acceptable under the bylaw and thus under the infill design guidelines. It shows that you can actually have a rear yard setback of 3.5 meters on this site. So when I come back to their comments on this, I will discuss that in further points. But their reasons for not supporting this were that they looked at the infill design guidelines and the official plan, and official plan section 11.1.9 has about 11 or 12 items that you have to comply with. There's only one that we don't seem to apply with, and that's, or 1 or 2, that's 11.19A and B. And in 9A, they say the built form doesn't comply with the area. I'm not quite sure how. They haven't said why they don't think it complies. It is a 1-story structure and it is only 4.2 meters in height. And this part B says setback and orientation does not comply. But when you look at what the bylaw actually permits, setback and orientation does actually comply. It allows the 3.5 meters setback on the rear yard, and it allows a 2-story structure there. So I disagree with their interpretation of this. And then under the livable Oakville neighborhood context, they state that it doesn't comply with that, and it refers back to the infill design guidelines. But again, the 3.5 meter is allowed as of right, and that specific interpretation is meant to apply to a major addition to a house. And I would call this, it's meant to apply to new houses generally in those infill design guidelines, but it does say a major addition. And this is really what I would call a very minor condition. So if you go to the next drawing, actually go 2 drawings past that, I'll just quickly show you the floor plan. The intent of this is the piece that's being added on here. It is requested as part of a small expansion of the living space on the main floor because they have a number of grandchildren and they're trying to maintain their presence in that house. If we go to the next drawing, that's showing the addition there. There is a roof line right now that runs around the house at a 1 or approximately a 4.2 meter height. So we've tried to align it with that. There's a 2-story structure that's up on top of that, but that's all existing. And if we go to the next drawing again, what I'm showing here is the side elevation looking from the side street. And again, I'm showing in the drawing to the left That's actually what the bylaw permits as of right in terms of building a structure. So we're very slightly higher than that. And that's permitted as long as it's 2 meters away from, or 2.5 meters away from the existing house. So it's not their intent to want to do that. It actually has more impact on the neighbors. And if we go to the next drawing, in this one, what I've shown is some photographs that are part of planning as evidence. And it shows just slightly shaded in red there where that 1-story addition is. There's already a 6 to 6.5 foot fence there. So you have about 7.5 feet of house exposed beyond that. But that doesn't reflect the fact that one of the reasons that there's no landscaping in this property is they want to do the addition first and then landscape it. So it's very easy to mitigate any impact on the street by simply planting landscape, which is shown on that bottom left drawing, which essentially makes the entire addition totally invisible from that street. You can't see it from the front. The neighbors on both those sides have no objection to it as well. So I think that has to be taken into account when you're trying to apply the infill design guidelines. I think there's one last drawing maybe beyond that, but perhaps not. So I think just go back to that one that we were just on. So in my opinion, after having done hundreds of these applications over the last 40 years, I quite often totally agree with the planning department, but I haven't also, and this is one where I don't agree with the planning department or their interpretations of the infill design guidelines, or the fact that this will be a major impact on the street. The neighbors certainly don't think so. It is not even something that's going to be visible from the street. It'll totally be hidden behind the fence in that tree. The bylaw permits an addition as close as 3.5 meters to that rear yard setback. We're at 3.35, so a difference of 6 inches. But it also permits it to be 2 stories. So we are only 1 story. So I think the application has no impact on the streetscape. It can be totally invisible. It is subject to a site plan, which was originally developed for the site because it was a severed site. We have no concern with going through that site plan. We know we have to go through that site plan amendment process. That's an opportunity to impose landscape standards to make sure that what I'm suggesting is going to be the case, that you can't see this from the street, will happen. There are some grading pieces on the site that were part of that site plan agreement. We're not changing any grades on the site at all, so the stormwater management will still be maintained. And it provides adequate amenity space. As I say, you're allowed to build in a different shaped house. You could have on that corner, you could have a 3.5 meter setback for the entire backyard. This only relates to 25% of it. So there's adequate space for amenity spaces, and the other corner houses, in fact, the one right across the street to it from the corner has literally no backyard. So I'm not quite sure how that would meet these requirements that they're suggesting would be imposed. But in my opinion, it meets all the 4 tests. I think it's appropriate. I think it's an appropriate addition to the character of their neighborhood. And what is permitted as of right, I think, undermines some of the urban design comments that we've received from the town. I know that may mean that we have to go to an appeal, but I would normally try and work something out with planning, but I just totally disagree with their interpretation of this. This is a minor addition that has absolutely no impact on sun, privacy, architectural. It's invisible from the street. It's invisible from every neighbor. There's a large tree on the right side of the property you can see in that one image. Totally screens the house from the adjacent neighbor to the side. So with that, I will leave it at that, and I'm sure I will have some questions. I don't believe there's any members of the neighborhood here, and I'll remind the committee that there are vehicles to utilize through the site plan approval process where we can detail with the landscaping, et cetera, to make this essentially an invisible addition to any neighbor on the street. So with that, I will leave it for questions. I might get one about rear yard setback from Mr. Dickey.
Thanks, Mr. Hicks. I am swayed by your presentation. However, I will leave the questions to the committee. The pictures in winter do not do you any justice in terms of screening, but that may be something you should consider because it is very visible in those pictures.
No, I agree. And that's why, as I say, they haven't done any landscaping on the site because they want to do their work first and then landscape it. So there will be substantial landscaping on the site. So,
okay.
And as I say, site plan is the way you make sure that happens. So,
okay. Thank you for your submission. Who would like to start the questions? I know there should be some, or will be some. Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sorry, but I missed your explanation of this thing about a 3.5 meter rear yard setback. It is allowed as of right or something. Could you explain that again?
Yes, I will. If you go back to, I think it's my 4th slide. There are, which shows the envelopes that are permitted. No, number 4 from the beginning, so. That one, yes. So there's 2 ways you can build on this site. If you blow up that right side image of that, if you can. When it's a corner lot, under the provision that's circled in red on the drawing, on the document to the left, there's a provision in that document where you can reduce your rear yard to 3.5 meters if you provide a 3 meter setback on the right side of that red box. We're at about 2 meters, so we're about a meter short of what that required setback is. So you can actually build a 2-story house all the way back to 3.5 meters, and it might step in a little bit further than into the part 1 and be within 3 meters of the side yard. And it fully complies with the urban design guidelines, and it fully complies with the zoning bylaw. So it's just that there's 2 ways of interpreting this, and I feel that planning has only looked at the one way of interpreting it, and they've forgotten that the bylaw allows a 3.5 meter setback.
Because it's on a corner? I still don't get it. Don't get
because
it.
it's
I've never heard of
it's
this before. 2.5 years, I never heard anybody come out on this. But you're saying this is because it's on a corner, it could be a flankage yard, or this is something else?
Because it's on a corner, it is a flanking yard, but it is considered to be the rear yard on that site, and it is the rear yard, but you are allowed to go within 3.5 meters. If you go to the document that's right to the left of that, and this has been in the bylaw for a long time, it didn't apply in your last application with Mr. Wilmot because that's an RO1 zone, and it only applies to everything else. If you look at the minimum rear yard, it says this is an RL2 or 3.
What zone are we? Sorry.
We are RL3, I believe.
3, okay.
Yeah. So all of them, though, other than RL1, say 7.5 meters with a subsection 6. And if you go down a little bit on that drawing or on that document, keep going to the number 6 where it's outlined in red. The minimum rear yard shall be reduced to 3.5 meters on a corner lot or an interior side yard of 3 meters. So that's the one I'm saying on the right side of that drawing on the right side. If that was a meter wider, I could build within 3.5 meters of that lot line. So, and I'm not saying it's an existing house, so obviously I can't do that without tearing down a piece of the house, or I'd be asking for a variance for that. But to me, it begs to say that the arguments that it doesn't meet the urban design guidelines just don't apply here. So you're allowed to go 3.5 meters. So
do you have a 3 meter side yard?
No, I'm saying we don't have a 3 meter.
It doesn't apply. Okay, thank you.
No, that's what I said right when I made my presentation. We don't quite meet that.
All right, thanks.
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Talowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Hicks, there's way too many ifs in your presentation for my liking. If we had a 3 meter side yard setback, we could build to 3.5. You have a 1.49 meter side yard setback, but you think you should be able to comply even though you don't meet the requirement. If we were going to build an accessory building, we could build it in this location. But you're not proposing to build an accessory building. You're proposing to add a substantial increase to the size of the house that requires both a floor area and a rear yard setback. And if the client wanted to build 2 stories, it would be worse. It's better that it's 1 story. You don't comply, or you're choosing not to comply with the bylaw or the tests that allow you to use the different section of the bylaw. How can you claim you're meeting the intent of the bylaw? I mean, the setback seems clear. If you have 3 meters, you can go to 3.5. You don't.
that, so I'm not going to disagree with you. There are some ifs. I'm presenting my case based upon the evidence that the planning department put forward, which I don't think is appropriate because the bylaw allows, whether I have a 3 meter side yard setback, the bylaw allows me to build a 2-story structure 3.5 meters from that rear lot line. So I'm making my presentation in argument as to the as of right bylaw and how they've stated their objections to this application. So I agree. I'm not saying this is what we're trying to do. That's why we're before you. Otherwise, would have taken 1.2 meters off the side yard of the garage and or applied for a different variance. But my position is that I'm applying it to why planning doesn't support what I believe is to be a very minor addition to a house, totally appropriate, totally invisible. And they're saying that it doesn't comply with that infill design guidelines. It does comply with the infill design guidelines because as of right, you can build a lot closer to that property line. So, and even if it's a 3 meter other side yard, but the 3 meter other side yard makes their discussion is the impact on that side street. So a 3 meter side yard on the other side has nothing to do with their interpretation of whether this is appropriate or not. So I agree. I'm not suggesting that if I did this or if I did that, I'm just suggesting I don't believe that their comments are appropriate or accurate. So, and it's still up to the committee to make that decision, obviously. So,
and not to put words in your mouth, you're taking exception with staff's position that this application doesn't comply with the official plan. I guess I'm taking
exactly. So, yeah,
exception that it doesn't comply with the intent of the zoning bylaw. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
We've had no calls and no hands showing.
Okay. We'll take the matter into committee. Who would like to move a motion? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Hardcastle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've been relatively quiet listening to a lot of complicated statements about this site and what can happen. I really what my assessment comes down to is the visibility and the impact on the area. I find that this site is very prominent from two angles on the street. The backyard is very prominent. I think that this addition stands out prominently, and I think the potential for impact is significant. I think that a lot of the what if statements sort of obscure the fact that this is a significant increase in RFA that will be challenging to mitigate in terms of its impact upon the streetscape. Accordingly, I'll put forward a motion to refuse the application as the application does not conform to the intent of the zoning bylaw and does not conform to the intent of the official plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hardcastle. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? Okay, you go ahead, Mr. Dick, if you have more comments, go ahead.
I would just like to add, Mr. Hardcastle, that in my opinion, these variances are not minor and they are not desirable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dick. Okay. The motion before us is to deny the application. All those in support? Okay. The application, and the chair abstains. The application has been approved.
denied.
Sorry, denied. Yes. The denial has been approved.
Right. Thank you, Madam
Apologize.
Chairman and members.
Apologies. Yes.
That's okay. So thank you, Chairman, members.
Have a good night.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Okay, so we are now at application 022 of 2026 at 132 Calder Drive. Again, that's application 22 of 2026 at 132 Calder Drive.
Good evening, members of the committee.
Good evening. Go ahead, Mr. Demchuk.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Paul Demchuk with Pretori Planning and Management. I'm here on behalf of the applicant for 132 Calder Drive in Oakville. Next slide, please. So just very briefly, the subject site, it's a rectangular shaped lot. It has just over 30.4 meters of frontage on Calder Drive, and it's currently occupied by a single detached dwelling, which leads to an attached garage on the property. The property is among a number of newer constructed estate style homes, which are not necessarily unique to this immediate neighborhood, and in many instances have received variances for increases in floor area ratio and other variances depending on the context of the site. Just briefly, I'll note just to the north of the property at 1498 Calder was a previous variance a number of years ago at just over 36%. And then to the south of the site at 118 Calder was a variance previously just over 33%. If I could take you to the next slide, please. This site you can see here is just shown on the left, and one of the properties, the immediate property, sorry, just to the north is shown just on the right-hand side. Next slide, please. I mentioned just a moment ago just some of the variances for floor area ratio within the immediate context. This site in particular also has a little bit of a history. You can see here that in 2017, there was a previous OMB decision on the property for an increase in floor area ratio and other variances associated with the garage floor area, the maximum height, and the minimum front yard setback. The property did change hands, and then there was an application as well in 2018, which was approved for a floor area ratio of 31.9% and 65 square meters of floor area ratio, or 65 square meters, sorry, of garage floor area. And then I will note, obviously, the current application, which is before the committee this evening, which is less floor area ratio than the previous two applications. But my client purchased the property in 2020 and has obviously been working on a different design, noting that obviously these previous applications, they have expired, and he's not looking to obviously pursue the previous designs. Next slide, please. So here is the site plan for the proposed development. And so I'll note that it's obviously proposed to be a new two-story single detached dwelling. It's has an overall floor area of 378 square meters, and it has a coverage of 24.91% on the property. The height is compliant at 9 meters, and both side yard and rear yard setbacks are also compliant. I'll also note that the majority of the front yard setback in terms of the main wall of the dwelling is compliant with the bylaw requirements, with the exception of the porch, which I'll address in a brief moment. If I could take you to the next slide. You can see on the bottom right, just briefly before I get into the front yard setback, obviously the architecture of the home has been carefully considered, both in terms of obviously materials, roof line, proportions, both to ensure that massing is broken up and there's compatibility in the site. Both from obviously the existing site context, but also for adjacent properties and within the local context. So just briefly, as it pertains to the front yard setback, the intent of the front yard setback is to ensure that there's a relatively consistent streetscape within an immediate neighborhood, and further that there's adequate area for parking and landscape within a given front yard. And so in this instance, the proposed reduction in the front yard setback only applies to the front porch of the dwelling. And you can see that where there's the red arrow on the left-hand side of the screen. And then again, I'll note that the balance of the entire main wall of the dwelling complies with the bylaw and also aligns with the setbacks of the adjacent dwellings. Further, obviously, the design of the site still provides for adequate parking and landscaping and stormwater features within the front yard of the property. Next slide, please. So just in terms of the floor area ratio, so obviously the intent of the floor area ratio is to mitigate potential impacts of massing on a given property. And so consistent with the intent of the bylaw, the proposed design, it features an entry portico, it features a roof line and built form features that provide for a variety of both building proportions within the architecture of the home. And then these massing approaches are obviously intended to contribute to assist in breaking up the mass and diminishing any perception of a building scale from the street. I'll also note that this building has some of the second floor area within the roof line, which further assists in diminishing the perception of building mass from the street. So this is just the front and rear elevations. If I could take to the next slide. These are just the side elevations of the building. And again, you can see how that massing is broken up through varied roof lines and building proportions. Next slide, please. So that concludes my presentation. I've read the staff report comments, which are supporting of the variances in the application. And that concludes my presentation, and I would be happy to answer any questions from the committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Demchuk. Who would like to ask any questions or items of clarification? Okay, I see none. Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
We've had no calls and we have no hands up in the audience.
Okay, we seem to have lost Ms. Price, so just a note for this application. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Mr. Tlowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'll move that this application be approved as applied for, finding that it meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act. And this proposal is very similar to other recent builds in the neighborhood. And in this context, I don't think the variances will cause any impacts. I'd also note that there is no opposition from the community. I'd make that approval subject to the dwelling being constructed in general accordance with the site grading and servicing plans dated January 7th, 26, and the elevation drawings dated October 2025, and that the approval expires if the building permit hasn't issued within 2 years of approval.
Very well, thank you. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved, none opposed, and Ms. Price is absent.
Thank you, members. Have a great evening.
Have a good evening. The last application of the night is application 24 of 2026 at 3337 Millicent Avenue. Again, that's application 24 of 2026 at 3337 Millicent Avenue. I have Mr. Goral as the agent. Oh, no, sorry. Mr. Golrez as the agent. Go ahead, Mr. Golrez.
Good evening, everyone. We have applied for the minor variance. The owner wants to have a below-grade stairs in the side yard. And it is a requirement by law that we should have a setback of 1.8 meters, where we are proposing 1.35 meters. So we are trying to get the leverage of 0.45 meters. That's a simple one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions of Mr. Golrez at this time? Items of clarification? Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering about the gate. There's a gate beside the driveway on whatever the side street is. Is that the gate that you into your backyard, or is that the gate into the neighbor's backyard? I know you have a gate on Magnificent Street.
That's the neighbor's backyard. It's not this one.
Okay, so your gate to access your backyard is right on the rear of the property at that.
Yeah.
At the rear of the house. Okay, thank you. That's it.
Any other questions? Okay, I see none. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Mr. Hardcastle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having undertaken my site visit, having reviewed the materials, including the written staff report, having heard the words from the applicant, I'm satisfied that the requested variance conforms to the four tests of the Act. Accordingly, I'll put forward a motion of approval, subject to two conditions. Those being that the uncovered stairs below grade be constructed in general accordance with the site plan and elevation drawings dated July 11th, 25, and that the approval expires within 2 years of the date of the decision if a permit has not been issued. Thank you.
Thank you. There's discussion on this recommendation. I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved, none opposed, and Ms. Price is absent. All right, have a good evening.
All right, thank you very much. Good evening.
We have to confirm the meetings from February 4th. Mr. Hardcastle, thank you. And a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Mr. Hardcastle. We are adjourned at 7:46 p.m.